Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's me again, Symbiosis, and before we get started with the video, I just wanted to say that I'm sorry I haven't been making videos in a while. I know it's been probably over 2 weeks since I last posted, and typically not what I want to do, but the issue is I was having a bit of a, suppose you could say like a problem figuring out where exactly I wanted to take my channel's identity forward. I took a good part of winter break trying to figure it out, and I think I finally done it. I do enjoy making video essays and analyses, so expect to see a lot more of those. Not only that, but I've also been able to, in that time, open a website, and of course all of the links that I ever mention will be in the description below, so check them out if you're ever interested. And I think that I've certainly kind of figured out what I want to do with this channel and what kind of videos you're going to be seeing in the future, so I will be coming up with a solid posting schedule, and I will talk about it over on my social medias. Again, you can follow those in the link below. Without further ado, let's get into today's video. Battlefield 2042 was arguably the most hyped and anticipated first-person shooter of the year. In comparison to Call of Duty Vanguard and even Halo Infinite, Battlefield was expected to be the clear winner. With the promise of grisly, futuristic warfare, especially after Vanguard announced itself as being another World War II shooter, Battlefield should have been the best of the year. However, the launch was met with an extreme pushback by fans warranting one of the highest low reviews on Steam for a video game. In fact, Battlefield 2042 was being outplayed by Farming Simulator. Clearly, anyone would ask the question, why?
Why?
What happened to this supposedly promising shooter? Let's take a dive into the many issues that Battlefield 2042 faced that led to this point of disaster. My name is Symbiosis, and I enjoy making content on video games, especially in relation to why video games failed, succeeded, and anything of the sort. If you enjoy video game analysis, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, and comment on this video.
Well, that was fun.
On October 19, 2019, EA CEO Andrew Wilson announced in an investor call that a new Battlefield game was in the works and would be released soon. It was coming out at a time in which the announcement of next-gen consoles was being propelled forward. Naturally, this new Battlefield was supposed to take advantage of the new hardware and create some proper advantages. The game was going to utilize a similar live service model that was seen in Battlefield 5, including massive innovations in multiplayer gameplay. Around September 2021, the loosely named Battlefield 6 was finally dubbed Battlefield 2042 by DICE, the developer that works for EA on the Battlefield projects. At the time of announcement, Battlefield 2042 promised combat that was on a massive scale, with new 128-player count maps, natural weather disasters like tornadoes, and a promise to focus on multiplayer. They announced that there would be no single-player campaign, as they believed the resources would be better spent on the game's multiplayer mode instead. Somehow, that didn't really seem to work out much. The story behind Battlefield 2042 can be best summed as follows. The world in the future is absolutely terrible, with massive natural disasters, collapsing nations, and proxy wars. The main characters of the Battlefield 2042 lore were dubbed non-patrioted soldiers, or NOPATs, that fought for the preservation of humanity. In Battlefield 2042, the proxy wars between the final two superpowers, America and Russia of course, occur all across the globe, from Qatar to Antarctica. Suppose the Penguins got involved in the war as well. The technology promised in-game was very great for a Battlefield title and was supposed to include robot dogs, wingsuits, cool jets, and tanks, the whole shebang.
What you're seeing is advanced warfare.
The main multiplayer mode would have two game modes, Conquest and Breakthrough. Then there would be Hazard Zone, which would focus on squad play and would be a very new addition to the franchise. However, DICE affirmed it was not a Battle Royale mode. They also added Battlefield Portal, which allowed for players to create custom servers in which they could replay old Battlefield maps with set rules. I've seen some interesting ones on YouTube like Milsim servers, for example. Portal has definitely been a popular mode thus far. The maps of Battlefield are large and take place in many countries with real-time weather events impacting the environment. DICE added in the idea of swapping attachments on the field and being able to summon vehicles in the field as well. The game opened with an invite-only technical preview in July 2021 with the open beta that was set to release later in the year. It ended up being opened in October 2021. The announcements excited longtime fans and new fans to the franchise. Anecdotally, in many YouTube comment sections, many Call of Duty fans were considering making the switch to playing Battlefield instead of Vanguard. I myself made a video some time ago talking about why I was considering switching to Battlefield 2042. Evidently so, the game didn't have a rough start. Most likely the biggest source of controversy was the switch to having specialists, which are just standalone characters that players can choose. A great example of this would be Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, where you have characters with backstories and unique looks. However, in Battlefield, this was not a thing. The game had always given the idea of generic soldiers in warfare. Even looking back at Battlefield 5, which I briefly played, it was just more immersive to feel as though one were another soldier, a cog in the machine if you will. However, looking at the same person running around all over the map over and over again is not what Battlefield players typically expect. However, this was only a water droplet in the ocean of issues with Battlefield 2042.
Well, that was fun.
Battle Royales are undeniably one of the biggest revenue streams for AAA companies these days. Take a look at Call of Duty Warzone or Apex Legends. These games did phenomenally well monetarily for their respective companies. The free-to-play model has been a complete financial success and has generated more revenue as companies push out microtransactions in the form of cosmetics. In fact, back in 2020, Activision made over $1 billion in just a few months off of Warzone alone. That's not counting their standard base games. Fortnite is another prime example of the free-to-play model working well. To this day, Fortnite is generating mass amounts of money. The model is perfect for making money. EA wanted nothing more than to make money off of their next Battlefield title, and of course, this is expected. EA, at the end of the day, is not there to feel passionate about gaming. EA is there to make money and please their shareholders. This is how corporations function in the system we have today. So, EA is not going to look to innovate with any new games. EA will want to compete by essentially doing the same thing others do, but try to slightly innovate so as to not look like a complete copycat. I watched Tom Henderson's video on Battlefield 2042. If you don't know who Tom is, he's a very renowned source of leaks and news from big games like Battlefield and Call of Duty, and has been known to leak accurate information about the games. I typically take his word as being as close to the reality of the game as possible. In his video, he mentioned how Battlefield 2042 was just supposed to be a battle royale. Amazingly enough, this makes sense. Considering what was trending when EA first decided to work on this project, and considering that battle royales are still generating tons of money to this day, it was pretty obvious. Which leads to the next section.
Well, that was fun.
DICE was facing some trouble before starting on the hardcore development of Battlefield 2042. Many of the previous experienced senior devs working in DICE were leaving. That left a good chunk of the development of 2042 to be in the hands of people with less experience working on the Frostbite engine that Battlefield uses and, well, Battlefield in general. Obviously, it's not easy to work on a video game. I can only imagine how stressful game development can be, to have to work on a tight schedule, have a lot of creativity restricted, and to be very much forgotten in the back rooms of the studio working away to try and make a finished product. It may seem fun to work on video game development, but in reality, I'm sure there's a lot of stress involved. The management team wanted money. The developers wanted to be expressive. In the case of a corporate environment, money trumps artistic expression any day. As such, the management team wanted to copy a lot of the elements that made games like Modern Warfare 2019 and Warzone successful. However, management ignored the bugs and ignored the issues that Battlefield was facing, and instead just wanted to do what Call of Duty did right. At the beginning of the development cycle, Battlefield 2042 was just supposed to be a battle royale game. In fact, if you look at some of the features in the game, such as extremely large maps, calling vehicles in during the match, etc., they seem oddly reminiscent of battle royale games. There were so many technical issues with the game, and the execs didn't seem to care at all. Not only that, but the issue was also with timing. COVID-19 didn't just disrupt our daily lives, it also disrupted a lot of work. Just like I mentioned in my Cyberpunk 2077 analysis, video game development at the time was stunted severely by having to work from home and isolate from other co-workers. In game development and testing, typically a studio will have the devices the game will release on. Obviously, the game must be optimized for every platform it's released on. The issue with this is that the devs don't all own every single platform the game is releasing on. As such, it led to a decrease in efficiency. This further cemented the issue with the game's development cycle. Plus, game development is about teamwork. In order to produce a properly done game, you need coordinated teamwork. That just wasn't possible when no one was working in the same room at the same time.
Well, that was fun.
Battlefield 2042 launched its open beta and was received with generally decent reviews at the time. Most people agreed that the game was fun, but was horribly unoptimized. PC players with top-end GPUs were barely achieving a proper frame rate. Still, the game was fairly decent in and of itself. It was exciting, a different experience. The lack of skill-based matchmaking, the beauty of the maps, the movement, the gunplay, it seemed like there was a lot to look forward to with Battlefield's newest title. Next-gen and PC players were able to jump into matches with 128 players. Meanwhile, last-gen consoles could only get 64 players. I suppose that it is a bit disappointing, but EA had made it clear that this game was to be a next-gen focused title. It makes sense that this was what was done. The game was chaotic, the jets and tanks were fun, but the flying on PC was egregious to figure out. The weather system did add depth to the immersion of the game. I grew up my entire life in the Midwest and experienced my fair share of tornado weather. Seeing a tornado was very exciting in a video game, also a tornado geek, so that played a role in my enjoyment of the weather system. The orbital map was very cool and included a good amount of different environments for battle, including forest, a variety of buildings, skyscrapers, the rocket launch pad, and more. Switching attachments in the middle of the match allowed for an easy experience in figuring out exactly what worked best for what gun. However, as close as it was, there was still a way to go, and the biggest issue was that the beta was released not too far from the official release date, which meant that the issues in the current build were concerning, as it was possible they'd carry over to the release. Although it was told that the build we'd been playing on was an older one and that the new one had already fixed much of these issues, there was still some skepticism. I just wonder, why leave a build with so many issues in the first place? It doesn't seem to make much sense, as this was the first impression for many prospective Battlefield players. Either way, I suppose it wasn't that big of a deal. You could chalk it up to the excuse of it's just a beta and well, you need to point out these issues, but if the beta was a month-old build, why would we want to play something with issues, if they're already fixed, supposedly? Just seems strange, that's all. Even so, EA claimed that the game was on schedule and that everything would be fixed and fine by release. Many gave them the benefit of the doubt, mostly because they had been hoping that the game would truly be fixed. Others were skeptics, and rightfully so. After the release of Cyberpunk 2077, video games were being scrutinized more and more, especially games with a good amount of hype around them. However, it turns out that much of what was said was a fantasy. The game wasn't ready. It was, in fact, behind schedule.
What's his name? What's his name? I got nothing on a name. Come on, baby, what's the name? We threw out his name!
Well, that was fun.
After the release, the game was slammed. Very badly, I may add. Battlefield 2042 was rated so negatively on Steam, it became one of the worst rated games on the platform. Not only that, but Farming Simulator overtook it. People began to see that Call of Duty Vanguard was much better, despite that game also receiving a lot of hate around it as well. Then, Halo Infinite released with a nearly fully polished multiplayer that was free, and well, the Battlefield hype died quite a bit. Now, it's not like the game is dead, don't misunderstand me, but it is leagues away from what had previously been anticipated. People had assumed that Battlefield 2042 would be a game that was going to be hyped and talked about for a while. In fact, some claimed it was going to kill Call of Duty Vanguard. The game itself, at its core, isn't terrible, but the bugs and glitches made it nearly unplayable. The features that made the game initially exciting quickly became lackluster, and so we are at the crossroads that we are sitting at today. Many say that this game needs another year and enough patches and updates will fix it. However, the issue with that is the fact that it's even acceptable to say something like this in the first place. Video games are not easy to make. This I fully understand. I didn't need to do too much C++ to appreciate just how complicated programming is. And the world of video games is much more than programming. There's concept art, asset design, user interface, graphic design, marketing, finance. There's just so much involved in every video game's development cycle. With that being said, knowing this, video games are being rushed nowadays. They just are. It's a fact. Look at most of the recent video game releases from AAA companies and realize something. What do almost all of these games have in common? Broken, buggy, unfinished, half-baked products? That's what they are, half-baked. The issue is that people who purchase video games are not speaking with their wallets. They just blindly accept the fact that games like Battlefield just need another year to be finished, but are willing to spend full price for something incomplete. Imagine you go to, say, Costco and purchase a box of whatever item, be it food or office supplies. Then you go home, open the box, and find it's half empty. You probably won't keep the box or say, oh, it's fine, give it another year and the box will eventually be full. It just doesn't work like that. People don't accept having half of a product they paid full price for. And the issue is that video games are becoming more expensive for half the game. I think that the issue is rooted deeply in complacency. Instead of purchasing Battlefield 2042, I realized the game would not be ready, and I decided to wait and see what would happen at launch. I learned a long time ago that pre-ordering new games just isn't worth it anymore. There's no midnight release to look forward to at GameStop. Most games are digital nowadays, you can get it whenever. The charm of playing a new game at release doesn't even mean anything anymore. You can just wait a few months and the game will go on a decent sale. Then everything's fine and dandy. The game will most likely be finished by then.
Well, that was fun.
All in all, Battlefield 2042's story is a bit depressing, especially for longtime veterans of the series. I'm not a veteran of Battlefield by any means, but I too was very excited at the prospect of a modern futuristic shooter. I have a bias towards military sci-fi. But unfortunately, Battlefield 2042 suffered from a lack of direction, a messy development cycle, and a desire to just follow trends. Battlefield's future doesn't look extremely fantastic either, as the company is planning on essentially turning Battlefield into a hero shooter, like, I guess, Overwatch. I don't really see why, when clearly people don't want that. In any case, whatever will happen with Battlefield 2042, I surely hope that the game gets fixed to a state that will please many. But with the way things are going, I'm not too sure when that time will come. It is tradition for Battlefield games to be broken at first, but I seriously do wonder why this is acceptable. Half-finished products should never be accepted at full price. With that being said, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed that video, feel free to check out my channel. I post video game analysis videos and occasional quick gameplay moments. If you're interested in that content, consider liking, subscribing, commenting, and turning notifications on. It's just an easy way to help me continue making this content into the future. Thank you all for watching. Symbiosis out.